Good night, John.
Do what?
You just tell me, I don't.
Call the meeting to order. Ms. Thompson, you have the honors.
Okay. Everybody, I'm going to say a quick little prayer, so if you just bow your heads with me, thank you so much. Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for everybody that's in this building, because that tells me how much they care. I just pray for discernment, wisdom, patience, and calm. Help us to always keep our eyes focused on the main thing, and that would be you. In your name I pray, amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, all board members, you've looked at the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. In discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, public speakers. William Mitchell, excuse me.
And, Mr. Chairman, these for comments that are
Let
not
me-
the,
Let me indicate, thank you. All right, we have actually two public speaking segments tonight. The first one is public comments on things not on the agenda, that is the budget itself. Is that better? All right. Not regarding the budget. These are comments other than the budget. We have item number 6, which are the budget items. In both cases, you'll be limited to 3 minutes. And I assume, we're timing, and so please don't make me gavel you to a conclusion. Please be respectful, because we have several general comments, but we have a number of comments later, item number 6, on our budget. So we're trying to keep the meeting within some reasonable hour. So, okay, William Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell?
Mitchell.
I think it is. M-I-T-C-H-E-L-L. All right, moving right along. Sean Francis. All speakers will give their name, address, and whether they're an Alamance County resident or not, and then proceed, and we'll start the timing after you announce that. Sure. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We're approaching again.
Okay, my name is Sean Francis, 4578 Freedom Drive in Burlington. And I'm going to actually ask you to pass these around. You get them printed in time. Those are pictures of a display that I found in the Alamance Public Library, or the May Memorial Library. The resolution's not that clear on a printout, but I also emailed them to you, so you'll have the digital version. Last meeting, each one of you, in your own words, used the term conspiracy to describe what is happening to our country. I'm here to tell you that you're correct and give you two examples where I believe this conspiracy is taking root in Alamance County. The first one concerns our Alamance County representatives. They are attempting to open an Article 5 convention to the Constitution. There exists a conspiracy among those that wish to create a North American trade union, and the Constitution is in their way. Masterminded by the Council on Foreign Relations, this conspiracy attempts to trick our state legislators into believing they have the power to call a constitutional convention and ratify its proposals as long as the supposedly high bar of 34 states agree to what they propose. This is completely deceptive. This is a completely deceptive fabrication, and the concepts of a convention of the states does not exist in Article 5. Another favorite tactic of the conspiracy is division. Racial division is always a favorite of the conspirators. Public slogans are being hung by our library staff on the walls of our county libraries, such as, "In a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist," and "How white people can work for racial justice," or "They can't kill us all," or "white fragility," followed by a communist definition of the term aimed at shaming anyone who might speak out against this garbage. Or, "Why is it so hard for white people to talk about racism?" Agendas like these are not how to raise our children in love. This is how you spitefully use children to further one's own political ambition. I'm sending a request to the director of Alamance County Library, Susanna Goldman, and asking for accountability from our county commissioners for information into this issue. My request to county commissioners and Paisley and Carter for agenda time to present the need to pass a resolution requesting our legislature rescind all extant applications for an Article 5 convention have so far gone ignored. They both swore an oath to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and Alamance County voters deserve to hear what is happening with this effort behind their backs. I have included an invitation to a presentation I am hosting locally on June 17th at 9 a.m. with constitutional scholar Robert Brown from the John Birch Society. Mr. Brown will help us understand the rightful remedy to this dangerous conspiracy and expose even more of its agenda. This meeting will be held next door to Home Depot in the building behind Bible Baptist Church at exit 143. I hope you're able to attend this important presentation and work with those fighting the conspiracy that we all recognize. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me also announce that we county commissioners will respond in large part to comments made both at this segment and Article number 6 in this meeting at the end of the meeting. Our procedure prohibits us from commenting as you're speaking. We are not ignoring your comments, regardless of where they are. We are listening attentively and will consider all speakers, but we will not comment until the end of the meeting when it's county commissioner comments periods. Okay, thank you. Okay, next person on the list is Paul Capps. I don't need my glasses to see that name.
pay attention to the last paragraph.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Capps, and I live at 3259 North NC Highway 62 in the McRae community. I have thought about this ordinance you are trying to pass this evening, and I question why. First, it was because of the projectiles leaving the range. Second, the noise that it has created. Then when the guy from the other range spoke at the last meeting and said that Red Range should have read the book on opening a gun range, he was so right. Not enough land, too many residents. Now he's put up a shooting lane less than 200 feet from the highway. That cannot be legal. According to the law that you have on 1440947, it does not prohibit local government from regulating the location and construction of a range. If our local government was supporting our community, then Rad Range would have done the right thing when he opened and built the range per the law. But he didn't, and now we are here trying to get your support. This started because of the projectiles leaving the property, and someone is almost getting hit by them. That started in March, and we still have no resolution. What is it going to take? If it was built by the law, then the noise level would have been modified to a safe level. Berms would be the right height. You are trying to put an ordinance on the books that no way can be enforced. You give the sheriff no support on how to enforce this ordinance. We as a community need to know if you are willing to help us. Do you not see the real problem here? Ranges in our surrounding communities don't seem to have the same type of problems that he has. Do we as a community need to seek legal action on this problem to get help another way? Or are we wasting our time coming here to these meetings? At the last two meetings, Mr. Paisley said to hang around to the end of the meeting and we could discuss those issues. That has not happened yet. We would like to ask from the commissioners that you help our community and make Rad Range conform to the state law. He has modified so many things out at the range that the Protection Act of 1997 should no longer be in effect for him. Mr. Chairman, if I could, I would like to yield the rest of my time to the sheriff for his comments.
As long as you stay within 3 minutes.
Have I used the 3 minutes?
I
I don't think it
the
started.
clock, did it?
Never started.
I've read over it and over it, and I didn't have 3 minutes, so I knew I had some extra time. But if you would allow him to speak.
Only thing I'll be able to say is, as sheriff, people call us all the time about problems at ranges and yards and stuff. Something needs to be done. Y'all know, Rick knows how the law should be and what needs to be done. But, I've been out there. I've seen the range. State law does say something about not building close to a highway, et cetera. But that don't give me the authority to do anything. You, the commissioners, have the right to pass an ordinance in this county. Y'all have been out, you've talked to this man here. He's agreed to do certain things that was asked. And if we keep leaving it open, we're going to be running cars out there all the time. And we're short right now, big time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Casali, you're next.
My name is Ralph Hartassi. I live at 207 Stiller Street, Bevan, North Carolina. Owner of Rad Range Training Event Center and Rad
Let me
Industries.
let you stop. Are we not running a clock?
We are.
Now, thank you, sir.
So basically, in a nutshell, the upgrades that we've done is exactly what is prescribed by law. We've removed all the lead that was in the berms. We built the berms higher. The new range, as it faces, which we have construction through a concrete pad, actually goes into that same gully where the 200-yard rifle range is there. Those walls on either side are about 35 to 40 feet. You're shooting at a 20-degree angle, and the 305-yard berm is over 61 feet tall. You're literally shooting to the side of the mountain. We've moved over 6,838 cubic feet or cubic yards of dirt. That is a monstrous amount of dirt. It literally looks like a subway tunnel. Bullets cannot leave that range. You're shooting away from the highway. It's still on the property. It's actually that scar that was in the picture where 1776 started building it. We just finished it out. All the ranges have had their berms rebuilt. I don't know what we want to do to make it safer. Several of you have been out there. The sheriff's been out there. Even from the last meeting, when the other range proprietor, like I said, he chastised me. I didn't say anything. It's a personal vendetta, obviously. And now Weapon Works and they're partnering together to do the same thing I do is with the NFA items with suppressors and stuff like that. It's kind of weird that they're doing this now. I think it was just a complete, falsehoods against myself, against Rad Range. We've increased the berms. Like I said, I don't know what more to do. Safety's there. We have RSOs out there. We've agreed not to shoot on Sundays per the sheriffs. I mean, I've done everything I pretty much can to make it the safest training facility in Alamance County. And that's the thing, we do training. We have Apex Defense Group out there providing training. Burlington, several state troopers come out there and shoot, deputies from other counties. And again, we charge for that, and that's revenue back into the county's coffers every time those registers ring up. So, I mean, you guys say you have a budget problem. We're a small business. We're doing everything we can. And that's basically all I got for you guys.
Thank you. The next name is printed, but I cannot read it. It's Maureen, and the last name looks like R-O-D Scribble. Do we have such a speaker? Okay. I'm sorry, are you coming?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, those are all the public speakers at this segment. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve? Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. If it makes everybody feel any better, that's that much of the agenda. Okay, we're now down to item 6A, and that is the hearing on the manager's recommended budget. And we have, we need to open the meeting for the public hearing. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. We are now in the public hearing itself. And we have 20 listed speakers. So, Tommy Coble. This says Cobble, but I know Tommy, I'm sure it's Coble.
Maybe Tommy Cobble.
Is there a Cobble? C-O-B-B-L-E is what's on my printed list. All right. Next is Sheriff Terry Johnson.
Commissioners, I'm here tonight to talk to you about the budget. Since 2022, a total of 15 involuntary terminations have occurred in my agency. That is because people were hired that we had to lower our standards because we cannot fill positions in our agency. And many of them did not last long. Some did not make it through the transition of becoming an officer with the Sheriff's Office. Since January of 2022, a total of 30 resignations have occurred. There are currently 40 vacancies in our detention center. There are 10 vacancies in patrol and investigation. Since January 1st, 2022, we've had 8 retirements. You add all those together, we have lost a ton of experience, and we have a lot of vacancies, and we're putting our detention officers and our deputies in jeopardy. Reasons given: salary, benefits, workload, forced overtime work due to lack of personnel, and other personal reasons. We're making people come back in when they have vacation plans. We have people coming back in when they finish a shift of 12 hours. We have had numerous assaults in that jail. 18 assaults. One can no longer be an officer. They were hurt so bad. We have another that has been on leave for over a year that was beaten in our jail. Why? Because we did not have the staff to staff that detention center at the time. If you've been in that detention center, it's different floors. One officer gets jumped by 2 or 3 inmates. It may take 3 to 5 minutes to get there when they holler for help if they haven't lost their walkie-talkie. Folks, this is urgent to me. We have the lowest tax rate in the surrounding counties. And I'm not one to want taxes raised. I have to pay taxes just like anybody else. But I do not want the blood of my people on my shirt because I did not stand before the commissioners and make them aware of the problem that we have in that detention center and the Alamance County Sheriff's Office. No one likes taxes. But commissioners, the people of this county elected you to represent them, and they elected me to keep them and their property safe. We each swore on the Holy Bible to fulfill those duties, regardless of personal feelings or even bias or party affiliation. And y'all have been good to us. I am not bad-mouthing you commissioners, but you got a decision you're going to have to make in this budget, or I'm going to have to cancel the marshal contract, the ICE contract, and bring people out of the courtrooms to fulfill these vacancies we have, which means you'll have to hire security people to run the security in the courtrooms. It's going to cost the county money. The medical stuff over the officer attack has been in the thousands of dollars here. July 1st, 2020 to June 1st, 2021, our deputies outside answered 93,494 calls. This county is 435 square miles, and we don't have a full, when we're supposed to have 12 deputies on a patrol unit.
Sheriff, I really apologize. You've got to be fair to everybody else.
Do what now?
I'm calling time on you because we've got to be fair to the other speakers.
That's fine with me. I just asked y'all to see what I'm having to see every day.
And I appreciate it.
And I appreciate everything that you guys and girls have done, but, you know, I'm responsible for my staff.
And we
Go
do
home.
have, as I indicated to you earlier, we have a work session tomorrow at 2 o'clock. It also will be telecast and recorded, and I would request that you attend that meeting.
I intend to be there, sir.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey, and please don't think I'm getting on you. I'm just making you aware of a problem that exists, and we're going to wind up paying big time if we're not careful.
Ed Priola. It hurts my feelings to gavel down the sheriff, Mr. Johnson. I said, it hurts my feelings to gavel down the sheriff.
I'm used to it.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the judge to
Thank
come in so we can all rise.
Oh,
Good evening.
thank you.
I'm Ed Priola. I live in Mebane at 747 South 8th Street. For full transparency, I'm a candidate for the Alamance County Board of Commissioners. I'm here to share my philosophy tonight on taxing and spending and the budget. I'd like to talk a little bit more about transparency and the guardrails that we need to do better with the budget and the people's monies. I'd like to share my philosophy, a great philosophy that other folks have. It comes from the title of the book, Leaders Eat Last. And this means, real simple, in simple terms, that the wants of leaders come after the needs of the people they serve. This is the time when we need to consider how we're spending money wisely. When inflation is mugging people every time they go to the grocery store, when hourly wage earners have to have multiple jobs in order to pay the rent, and of course, with the nightmare of a crushing property tax, revaluation threatens to force retirees from their homes. Now is not the time to raise taxes, especially when they're for foolish matters. It's revenue neutral is where we need to be, not inflation neutral, as I've heard of late. Unfortunately, a lot of our town council and city council folks and elected officials in the county didn't get the memo of how bad this is for taxpayers. As you know, recently we had an issue come up with the ABSS Board of Education. They granted raises to staff and employees and tapped into the HVAC systems for the students, for the repairs of the school. But even more recently on top of that, what I find quite surprising is they awarded the new superintendent, after 1 year on the job, awarded him $34,600 in additional compensation after 1 year. Please keep in mind that the median individual income, annual income in Alamance County is just about that same amount of money. So I find that surprising. And in fact, when you tap the whole salary of the new super, I think he's a nice guy, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of nice guys. But when you consider his salary is 7 times the median individual household income in Alamance County, I'm questioning whether we have the right guardrails, whether we have the right transparency when his contract was negotiated. And how long is it going to be until ABSS comes back for the money to fix the HVAC systems addition? So it's transparency and guardrails I think we need to keep in mind. It's the fact that leaders should eat last. The students shouldn't be forced to go into substandard schools because we paid additional salaries. Now's the time to reduce the tax burden on the property owners and taxpayers of Alamance County. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Doug Adams.
Matty Florence Drive in Graham, North Carolina. I don't know about the agenda and I ain't a politician by no means, but the bottom line is anybody that's been born and raised here and had a business here over 30 years, our sheriff's department and our school system, teachers and stuff, sheriff's department, they're starving for money. Everybody around us is paying more than Alamance County deputies are being started at, some by $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. And they're protecting all of us in here, most of us in here, homes, businesses, families, and, you know, we're taking a hit, and the response time's way down. We work with them every day, and we're all going to suffer for it if we don't wake up and start putting money where it needs to be. That's the bottom line. I'm not going to take up your 3 minutes, but we need to look at what's going on and what's coming through Alamance County, and better start doing what we can to stop it, or we're all going to be in for a rude awakening. And that's
We thank you.
really all I got to say.
Yes.
Thank you.
Looks like Adam Covington.
Adam Covington, 1116 Trollingwood Road, Hall River. And I'm going on the same kind of line Doug and them are. I think we need to do whatever we can to get the sheriff some money and, you know, whatever we need to do to fill these spots, these empty spots. So, you know, it's pretty important to if you call 911, don't nobody show up, you got a problem. So, you know, see what we can do to get going on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Crane.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Crane, 3641 Warfield Road, Graham, North Carolina. I'm a resident of Alamance County since 1997, a 28-year law enforcement officer, and a current captain at the Alamance County Sheriff's Office. What I'd like to talk to you about tonight is some of the statistics. In my current capacity, I'm over the Operations Division, where I supervise all investigations that occur through the Alamance County Sheriff's Office. And the first thing I'm going to jump into is the obvious, overdoses. Somebody has to work overdoses, and it ain't just us. EMS, fire, social services, everybody. We have to have the budget to fight this problem. I've been in the homes. I've seen the dead bodies. I've stepped over them. And I've looked at the children in the eyes as they've stared at their dead parents on the floor. We need the resources to combat this problem. In fact, this year, since July of 2022 through the end of May, we've had 217 reported overdoses in Alamance County. That's approximately 21 and a half a month that ambulances are going to, firemen are going to, law enforcement officers are going to, social workers are getting involved in. Nobody's immune from this problem. In that same time, we had 38 reported fatal overdoses, 38. If there were 38 people killed on any street in this county, we'd have officers standing on the corner every day. 38 people have died in that time. 2020 to 2021, we had 111 ODs, and 14 of those were fatal. 21 to 22, we had 258 overdoses, 31 fatal. That's a 57% increase. I'm just giving you the facts. I have to have people to work these crimes and work these investigations. I urge you to give the sheriff the budget that he's requested so we can combat this problem. Moving on to criminal investigations. 2020 to 2021, we had 796 total investigations, which is property crimes, crimes against persons, and frauds. 2021 to 22, we had 995. That's a 20% increase. They're building houses and apartments all over this county. What do you think is going to happen when those people move in? Those numbers are only going to increase. I'm short detectives as it is. Special Victims Unit averages 1,372 cases a year. They serve 525 50Bs a year. And they verify 763 sex offenders every year. In the past 3 years, the Street Crimes Unit, which is responsible for investigating narcotics crimes in our county, arrest rate went from 229 in 2020 to 327 in 22. That's a 30% increase. We have to have the officers to investigate these crimes. I urge you to grant the sheriff's request for his budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Scott Gaither.
Good evening. My name is Scott Gaither. For those of you that don't know me, I'm also a captain with the Sheriff's Office. I live at 2872 South NC Highway 119. Time's already up. I just want to echo what the sheriff and Captain Crane is saying. Bottom line, we have to have the people to do the job. Not only us, EMS, fire department, and the county as a whole. The biggest problem I see at the 18 years I've been here is retention. The county is always playing catch up. And I understand it costs money, but it costs more money to keep hiring people. So at the end of the day, we need the money. I'm not telling you how to make it happen, but it needs to happen. Otherwise, just like they were saying, nobody will come when you call. How's that going to be? Thank you for your support, and thank you for all you have done with the Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, sir. Angela Thompson. They should have put you on the end, shouldn't they?
Okay, the follow.
My name is Angela Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of Alamance Elder Care. Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to address you this evening. Alamance Elder Care is a not-for-profit human service agency committed to improving the lives of those striving to meet the challenges of aging in Alamance County. We envision a community in which all older adults and their caregivers have access to the resources and support needed to live full and independent lives. We have been a part of this county for 29 years. We started as a partnership between Alamance County, ARMC, and Memorial Hospital to address the needs of the aging. Alamance Elder Care's mission is to maximize the health, well-being, and the independence of older adults, to provide the leadership within the aging service community and support those who are most vulnerable in Alamance County. What we're most famous for doing is information and referral and linkage. We provide this service free of charge. We provide comprehensive individual assessments, options counseling, locating services, caregiver education, and support. We had a long affiliation with Alamance Regional, and then later with Cone Health. Most recently, we lost the in-kind support with Cone Health. So now we had to recently set up human resources, IT, phones, payroll. We are relocating to Graham. We'll be a part of right down the street from you all. And we're having to, for client services, which are things as little as, let's say, helping someone repair a window or helping with transportation for those people who may not qualify for indigent, which are like Medicaid or services through the Department of Social Services. We have a client assistance fund. All of those services won't be able to be provided because we are losing the in-kind services from Cone Health. That means that has to come out of our general fund. So we are asking that, we know that the budget is tight, but we are losing the $88,000 that we used to get from Alamance County. And instead, if you look at the budget, you all are planning to just do the match for our home care and community block grant. We are respectfully asking that we just get those funds back so we can continue to provide services in this county at the level that we were providing those before. We are projecting a loss on our operating budget between 35 and 40% with the in-kind loss, a grant loss, and the loss from Alamance County. So please consider our request, and we want to continue to serve Alamance County at the same capacity. Thank you.
And we thank you. Okay, Joe Wall.
I'm Joe Wall from 8326 Silas Drive, Snow Camp, North Carolina. I'm a retired electrician, a registered Republican, a voter. I run a few little cattle in a little farm down in the Eli Whitney community. And the reason I came here, I've been reading the Alamance News editorial page, and I call it the broken record news. It's the same thing. You listen to, you read his editorials, they're always about taxes and county staff getting a raise. And I'm sick and tired of it. I just want to let you know that I'm not particularly proud to be in a county that pays the lowest taxes just about in the state. I'm tired of being in a cheap county. I'd like for you to put up the money to get this county to operate right. The sheriff's department's not the only department that can't find employees. We need some money, and just want to let you know that $15 a month is not going to kill me, even if I am on my retirement.
Thank you. This is a handwritten name. First name is Sandra. Last name starts with a C. Okay. What is your last name? Thank you.
My name is Sandra Cook. I'm a resident of 937 Baker Drive in Haw River. And I'm here to advocate for our public schools, not just because I'm a parent of a rising third grader and kindergartner at Audrey Garrett Elementary School, but also because many of my friends work or have children in the ABSS system. My church, St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in Haw River, provides outreach to our neighbors, the teachers and students at Haw River Elementary, Title I school, as you probably know. Consequently, I'm a firm believer in the ABSS vision that, quote, each ABSS student is prepared for their future in an inclusive, supportive learning community, end quote. And I'm also aware of the real need for sufficient funding to support that vision. For example, just a couple days ago, my friend, who is an English as a second language specialist, told me that ESL enrollment, district-wide, I think, is going to increase by about 300 students. And yet there will likely be no increase in ESL staffing, and this is expected to lead to an 80-to-1 ESL student-to-staff ratio. Now, my friend and her colleagues are excellent at what they do, but I question whether such an 80-to-1 ratio adheres to the ABSS student-centered, future-focused mission. And of course, I do understand that, you know, it's the school board that makes a lot of these budgeting decisions. By the way, I was really struck by the comment that Ed Priola just made about the superintendent's salary, and so I know there's definitely important conversations to be had there for how the school system spends their budget. But as the County Board of Commissioners, you must also do your part and ensure that education reserve funds and debt services funds are used solely for our public schools. So I know earlier there had been conversations about courthouse renovations. And so in regards to those, I believe maybe they've been tabled for the moment. I'm not sure of the details, but courthouse renovations or any other non-education related endeavors, my message is this: hands off the reserve fund, hands off the debt services fund, and hands off any fund that might threaten our children's education. Thank you so much for listening.
And we thank you
And
as well.
I have to go now because of a family matter at home. Don't take that the wrong way. Thank you.
With all speakers, we would encourage you to hang around toward the end of the meeting to hear potential responses. Thank you. Okay, Justin Post. Must not be Justin. Okay.
It's Justine. I've been getting that all my life. It's all right. Good evening. My name is Justine Post. I reside at 202 Blue Ridge Drive in Graham in Alamance County. My oldest daughter is about to start kindergarten at BEJ, B. Everett Jordan, and she tells me daily that she's already ready to start. And as parents, we are already ready to see her learn and grow. And yet, I hear about the vulnerability of the county school budget, and I feel like the county school system is far from ready to support her. I imagined a lot of scenarios as a mom getting her child ready for her first year of school, but I was not prepared for the scenario in which I came here in the middle of their bedtime to ask my county representatives to not touch the school budget for other things. And I could not have imagined a scenario that would put me here to say I don't approve of a budget that would negate my child's or countless other children's growth and flourishing. And as I was sitting here, I was hearing about violence in jails and understaffing, and I can agree that that's an urgent issue. And I think we can also look about going upstream and thinking about starting sooner and supporting those families and those children now so that we don't end up in situations like this. And I think we can both win. I don't think there has to be a zero-sum game. That paying the school social workers, the teachers, and the counselors what they need to support young children will positively affect down the road emergency services that are needed now. I don't think it needs to be an either or. And I just want to say, hands off the school budget, as a mom who's getting ready to send her kid into that school. Thank you for your time.
And we thank you. Tanya, looks like Klein. You understand, these are handwritten, and I'm just trying to do the best I can.
Sorry, I tried to print, but
It's Spell
we
your
don't
last
write
name,
much
please.
anymore.
Spell your
It's
last name.
Tanya. Can y'all hear me okay? It's Tanya Klein, and I live at 1211 Brookview Drive in Gibsonville, and that is the Alamance side. I am a former ABSS school social worker and the parent of 2 ABSS students. Actually, we'll have a senior next year and a 10th grader. So they've been in ABS the entire time. I think I say that every time, but it's true, and I think it means something because, I'm proud to have kids that are in public school and that have been in ABSS the whole time. But the school system should be able to be, I'm here to request that you fully fund the school's budget with the school system's requested amount. I know it never happens, but I'm still going to ask because I think that's what the school deserves. The school system should be able to fully fund increases such as the teaching supplement and the coaching supplements in order for our county to be competitive with neighboring school districts to help with teacher retention. Those districts all have higher supplements. I'm thinking of going back, and I'm looking at those counties because I can make more money in Guilford or Orange County. The district should be able to do this without having to cut millions of dollars in positions like Butler announced at the last school board meeting. But I'm also asking, like others have, that you leave all the school funding that is in the ABSS Capital Reserve Fund intact to be used for the not yet funded section of $27.7 million that was listed in the recently adopted 4-year capital reserve plan and also for other future repairs. So hands off any funds that are needed for our children's education. Thank you for your time.
And thank you. Shamika, looks like Harvey.
Got it right.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tamika Harvey. I live at 733 Grover Lane. That's in Burlington. I've been a resident of Alamance County for 41 years. I'm here asking that you don't touch the reserve funds that is set aside for education purposes. I'm a parent of a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old that attend Cummings High School. Every time I go inside the school, I'm reminded of why we need that money, from leaking roofs to damaged floors to teacher shortages to books to whatever our kids need. This is why we need that money. What sense would it make for us to take the money from the school's reserve and basically build, remodel, whatever you want to say, a new courthouse, but not use that same money for what it's actually set aside for? And that would be for our schools and for our educational purposes. The reality is if we use the funds for what they're set aside for, then at some point we won't need a fancy courthouse because we will be turning our young men and our young women into great citizens of this county, Alamance County. So I ask today that you don't touch the reserve funds and that the hands are off our debt service fund. Thank you so much.
And we thank you. The next name, Regina Wells, is marked through. Is that person not speaking? Okay, thank you. Seneca Rogers? Seneca Rogers, I know who that is. Thank you. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you. Seneca Rogers, Graham, North Carolina, Alamance County resident. And I'm standing here tonight to request that you as the county commissioners fully fund the ABSS budget request. As a citizen of Alamance County, a product of our local school system, and a former school board candidate, our local school system is always a concern for me. Our education system should always be a top priority nationally, statewide, and locally. Here in Alamance County, we need to value an education system that is preparing our students to be the true citizens of the world with a real appreciation for the community through learning and understanding of cultural differences in what makes the community, neighborhood, school system unique and thrive. We must show a real value in our educators and administrators in their growth and professional development. They strive every day to make sure that our students get the best learning environment possible. All of these various educators love our schools and our students. We can show them that same love and appreciation for what they do by making sure that the funding and resources are there for them to do their jobs at a top-notch level every day. Alamance County is continuing to grow. We've done heard from the sheriff tonight talking about that growth and various other people. We're seeing new housing developments pop up everywhere. We have new businesses that are coming to the community. So there will be more and more people here moving to Alamance County. And they, of course, want to make sure that their children are in a great school system, which can foster a great learning experience for them. In Alamance County, we need to let it be known that we wholeheartedly support our local public school system and making that a great culture for all our students and educators. This can mean support of our athletic trainers to protect our athletes, investing in counseling and school nurses, and our EC departments to help our children with their social and emotional needs. Because a student cannot focus on math while they're worrying about things that are going on at home. Finally, an increased district teacher supplement allows ABSS to retain its educators, and an increased supplement for our coaches as well is well overdue. Every year, Alamance County has various teams that across various sports that are going and competing for state championships. We just saw that this weekend with Eastern Alamance and Western Alamance ladies teams. And these coaches have a great impact on our student athletes. I know this as a firsthand as an athlete myself, who one of my coaches is still one of my mentors today. So county commissioners, you have an opportunity with this budget to show that Alamance County's priorities are in place for a great education system, and we need to make sure that we keep public funds for our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela Hale, AJLA. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Good evening. I'm Pamela Hale. My husband and I moved to 6 Poplar Avenue in Elon upon retirement. We came to Elon because of our grown children in Chapel Hill and in Cary. I'm here because I believe in the potential of all of our students in Alamance County. I believe in the vision and the mission of ABSS, because the vision states each student is prepared for their future in an inclusive, supportive learning community. And the mission to engage and empower each student to learn and become knowledgeable, responsible community members. I hope you are well aware of that vision and that mission, and that you as leaders are committed to a supportive learning community. I also know that there are millions of dollars in school repairs that are not funded, which means it is not a supported learning community. I hope you know that it would be irresponsible to remove any funds at any time from the public schools. The need is just too great. Sadly, it is my understanding that the commissioners are considering the possibility of removing $2.9 million from the Educational Reserve Fund. It is also my understanding that Alamance County Schools have a budget shortfall of $7.5 million. This is alarming. Why would the commissioners even consider removing any money from our children's Educational Reserve Fund? The budget shortfall is already shortchanging our children. Children learn best by example. I hope your example will be shown by being responsible community members who know how important it is that all of our students in every school have the facilities and materials and educators and support staff that is necessary for them to become knowledgeable, responsible community members in our shared future. I implore you, please don't take any funds away from education. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexis Cagle.
Good evening. My name is Alexis Cagle, and I live at 617 Woodhaven Drive in Burlington. I'm here as the parent of an incoming kindergartner, and I'm here to ask that you fully fund our public schools and also I am here to ask you not to take money from the ABSS school system. When I heard about the proposal to take money from the schools to pay for an expansion for the courthouse, I instantly thought about the school-to-prison pipeline. If you're not aware of this phrase, the school-to-prison pipeline is a disturbing national trend in which students are funneled out of school and into the criminal legal system. According to the ACLU, for many kids, the pipeline begins with inadequate resources in public schools. With the current plan, honestly, to me, it almost seems like you're trying to strengthen that school-to-prison pipeline by taking money out of public schools and putting it into the criminal legal system. I hope that is not your intent. I was present at the school board meeting in which the needs of the buildings were laid out. Nothing on that list struck me as an extravagance that wasn't really necessary. They need working cameras and door locks. They need places for kids to play sports. I've been a teacher for 15 years, and no matter what school system you're in, I no longer work for Alamance County. I can't afford it. The supplement is too low. But no matter what school system I'm working in, the schools break down and they need repairs. Please show Alamance County that you value our children and do not take this money. Thank you for your consideration.
And thank you. Amanda Baker.
Good evening. Hello again. My name is Amanda, and I'm at 321 West Gilbert Street in Graham. I'm an Alamance resident. I'm here again tonight to speak on the state of our public education and how this board affects our children's futures through their budget recommendations and acceptance. Last meeting, I spoke on the suggestion to reallocate ABSS capital reserve funds toward county building projects, such as the expansion of the courthouse. Although this board has said at the time that the fund from which this money was to be pulled was not in fact the capital reserve, but was earmarked as debt services, the fact of the matter remains that it will result in a monetary loss to our school system and, at worst, a missed opportunity for true crime prevention and a healthy, educated population. The board campaigned to the constituents of Alamance County to approve the 2018 education bond of $150 million. The voters made their voices heard and voted to secure that money for our school system. That promise should not disappear when we have a penny that performs like an Olympian, defying expectations. Our tax dollars still fund the debt service used to pay that loan. If there happens to be a surplus in said fund, then it should also be earmarked for education to build upon the promises made to those you represent. At the most recent Board of Education meeting, and I will say I do go to the Board of Education meeting and talk to them as well about how their responsibility for their funds. So I'm not just coming to y'all. At the most recent Board of Education meeting, members announced plans to cut roughly $7.5 million from programs and positions in our district schools. If there is a surplus in debt services, then it would be logical that the county use our exceptional penny to offset drastic cuts happening to our schools. This is the first of many cuts that will come as school choice expands. This board should be focused on protecting our public school funds, and given every opportunity to fund our children's schools more should be taken. With education being the most prominent issue in our county and public safety a close second, it is statistically and logically sound to invest in peer-reviewed research and proven crime prevention measures, which start in the school system, including but not limited to counselors, well-trained and paid teachers, teaching assistants, interest-based learning opportunities, intervention strategies, and in-school resources with support systems. These are just a few things that we can think about when we're talking about crime prevention as it relates to our education system. And they have statistically higher rates of effectiveness than 6 sheriffs, Durangos, and a tank. Again, as constituents, we ask that you allocate funds to the areas that really make a difference in the lives of your constituents. Although we have heard that this reallocation of debt service surplus funds is not going to be a priority this year, we ask that the funds requested for the expansion of the courthouse do not come from taxpayer dollars voted on and allocated for education in any of the coming cycles. Hands off the reserve fund, Hands off debt service fund and hands off any fund that threatens our children's education. Thank you.
Family, thank you. Janet, it looks like Eckelberger. Is that pronounced correctly?
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Janet Eckelbarger. I live in Mebane, and I am a proud resident of Alamance County. I'm here tonight to oppose the reallocation of $2.9 million of funding from the Alamance school system to the new courthouse renovation. The $150 million education bond that was sold to the voters should be used only for education. Any surplus from that or a debt service fund should be also used only for education. With almost $28 million of unfunded capital projects in the schools, how can you even consider this? It appears that you are playing the public defender's office against education. Proper funding for public education creates a successful rather than a criminal population, and the long-term prosperity for the citizens of Alamance County depends on this. Our schools are in an embarrassingly sorry state, and everybody knows it. Creating educated, productive members of our county would reduce crime rates significantly. This is where we should invest funding for our young people. All I see in the budgets, and I looked at every page of the budget, are repairs to the schools, not any new programs to thrive or inspire. The purpose of public education is to create a productive workforce and enlightened society. How can this happen if all the funds are going to fix broken buildings? I would even go so far as to say that any surplus that is found anywhere should go directly to education moving forward as a commitment from you, our county commissioners, as a proper investment in the future of the citizens of Alamance County. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay Cannett.
Hello, I'm Jay Kennett, and I live at Willowbrook Drive in Burlington. And I'm here to ask you as well to fully fund our schools. I'm concerned about conversations that divert money from the reserve fund or debt service fund, money allocated to schools, to other places. I'm concerned about our children. I have the great pleasure to volunteer sometimes in our school system. And the classroom I volunteer in is a classroom trailer. These classrooms were intended as temporary fixes, but now they are part of the permanent infrastructure of the schools. This particular trailer has chunks out of the side that have rotted away. Some so big you can see the insulation. Inside, the tiles are missing, chunks are out of the tiles, and some are completely loose and up from the floor. Now, if you walk in this classroom, you may not notice that because the teacher there has done their best in covering broken tiles with rugs, of putting educational and motivational posters up to distract the children from the disrepair of their classroom. This teacher, like all our teachers, is working to make it work in a system that is not supporting them or our children. Our teachers are our resource. And as well as funding the infrastructure of our schools, we need to fund them as well. There is one commonality to successful and succeeding schools, and that is in each one of those school systems, the teachers are treated as professionals and paid as professionals. So we can't just spend money on fixing building. When the counties surrounding our counties, Guilford and Orange County, are paying more than we are losing our good teachers to them. We are losing those teachers that go above and beyond. So I'm asking you to fund our schools. Fund it completely and don't divert funds to other places. Fully fund our schools, treat and pay our teachers like professionals. Treat our children in the way that we want all our children to be, so they can be successful and be the next leaders of our county. Thank you.
And we thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you there are 21 speakers, minus those that did not speak. In fact, there's a second page. So we have, looks like 7 more speakers. The next speaker, Miranda Burke Skoll. That's Medora, is it not?
Sir, we've been friends for a minute. You got to get this. Medora Burke Skoll. Good evening, commissioners. Medora Burke Skoll. I live in Mebane, and I'm also a proud Alamance County resident. I stand before you this evening as a representative of the Alamance-Burlington Association of Educators. Firstly, I would like to commend this board as well as the Board of Education and ABSS. As most of you know, I've served on the Government Relations Committee of our local teachers union for almost a decade. I'm so pleased by the changes I see happening these days. By publicly defining the formal request process for capital funds, you guys have done an excellent job in making this a transparent and structured process. The 2 elected boards are working together today in a way that's a real credit to our county citizens. We've come a really long way since the bad old days of viewing this as an adversarial fight, and we appreciate it. I would ask if it's possible to have the Technical Review Committee and Oversight Committee either publicly release their minutes or transcripts or videos of how that goes down, just to add some more transparency to that process. Secondly, as a homeowner here in Alamance County, I would love to see our tax rate increase, Mr. Lashley. I saw you have a heart attack. Slightly, if it means that we could do a better job of funding our community's needs, whether that's the school system or the sheriff's department or any of the other community agencies. We have excellent public schools here in Alamance County. I would argue firmly against the former speaker. I think we do a great job with what we have. But it regularly feels in the public school system like we have to rob Peter to pay Paul. And that is not your board's responsibility. You guys have done a great job in stepping up to fill a gap in state underfunding in our schools. I recognize that your job is to fund the capital improvements in the schools in Alamance County, and that is your purview, and that you as a board have been asked to fund a lot more than that because of state underfunding. I was at a meeting last week where I brought up the issue that we are losing dozens of qualified teachers from the Participate program annually because they can only stay for 5 years in Alamance County. I was told Alamance County doesn't sponsor work visas, so these educators come, establish themselves in our communities, put their kids in our schools, put down roots, and then in 5 years they have to leave. Our district has made a real effort to diversify educators to make sure all of our students see themselves represented in the staff. Yet here we have this pool of eager, qualified, bilingual local educators, and we're doing nothing to retain them due to perceived costs. Now, I'm not an expert, but it looks like it would cost as little as $2,000 per candidate to allow these educators to remain working in Alamance County by sponsoring their visa. I hate that. So I went into this meeting and I was asking about this and I was told, like, that's a non-starter unless we can start minting our own money, right? And I hate that we constantly have to make choices like this in Alamance County when we have vacancies and we have people that would willingly fill those vacancies, but we don't have the money to address that issue. I'm out of time. I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate all that you do to support us.
Thank you. Okay, Tiffany Smith.
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Smith, and I live on Tangle Ridge Trail in Burlington, North Carolina. I am here to express my desire for the county commissioners to not use school funds for the courthouse expansion. I have 3 children that attend the Alamance Burlington school system, and I have It has been a challenge to get services and support that my children need within their school. And that is with the current level of funding. We need more money, not less. Like many people here tonight, I am a working parent. My husband and I work hard to support our family. As a working parent, it is very stressful to receive last-minute phone calls asking me to drive my child to school because of the bus driver shortage. As many of you know, Alamance County, like many other counties across the state and across the country, is experiencing a bus driver shortage. That shortage is due in part to the need for bus drivers to be paid a decent wage. They are part of the backbone of our school system, and bus drivers are responsible for the safety and well-being of our children. As they go to and from school, the bus driver's job can be stressful and difficult at times. For all of those reasons, bus drivers deserve to be paid a decent wage. This is one example of why our school system needs more, not less, money. Because my husband and I both have transportation, in theory, we are able to drive our children to school from time to time. However, without adequate warnings, such as this morning's 6 a.m. notice, having to drive our children to school can become a challenge, even for our family. I work in another county with a 50-minute commute. Driving my children to school on a short notice causes me to call in for work. Fortunately, I have an understanding employer, and the situation doesn't jeopardize my job. But that isn't true for all families. All families can't afford higher taxes. We need to pay our bus drivers and support our staff adequately. We need to provide maintenance and repairs to school buildings, and the list goes on and on, as you have heard. The bottom line is we need more money invested in our public schools, not less. Do not take $2.9 million from our schools and use it to renovate courthouses. Don't do it now. Don't do it ever. If there's a surplus of any kind, please invest that in public school systems and not in the courthouse for renovations. Our schools need those funds. And I was to say, hands off the reserve fund, hands off debt service fund, hands off all funds that threaten our education in Alamance County. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Henry Vines. Lucifer.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Henry Vines, and I live at 3450 Isley Drive. I know I've sat here tonight, and I've listened to all the requests of asking for more money, for more money, for more money. I understand that we have needs in the county, but as I serve on the Board of Equalization, and I hear these folks stand up in front of me, seniors and all, and they're all so concerned about their property taxes going up. We have to realize that most property in Alamance County on this reval has increased over 80%, and some have even doubled. So when you add a penny to this, it's actually double what they were paying before, because their property values are double what they were last year. So as you look through these things, you have promised the citizens, and they have said this many times over and over in our meetings, that you have promised a revenue neutral budget. And that's what they're expecting. Even at revenue neutral, there's still going to be an increase in your tax bill, because most people's property values are going to be over the 55% range, which if you're over 55%, your property increase over 55%, you're going to see an increase. So I guess I'm just asking you to live up to your promises that you made at the first of the year, and saying that you would keep a revenue neutral budget so that people won't realize a high increase in their property taxes. When you're talking about revenue neutral, you have to adopt it. 42.53 cents, you have to adopt it. But you have the right to raise taxes. And that's what this proposed budget is all about, raising taxes by 3 cents. Well, 3 cents on these higher property values is going to mean a pretty good increase for a lot of folks and our citizens, our just like me, you know, aged, our retired people. It's going to be a burden on them, and they're really concerned about this. We've had folks that stand before us and actually cry, and it just breaks your heart. You know, you try to explain to them, you know, that, you know, what the county commissioners are proposing, and they're going to try to keep everything, you know, at revenue neutral, so your taxes shouldn't grow that much. So I'm asking you tonight to just honor your, what you said, each one of you, that you would work toward that. And I just don't have much else to say, except just do what you can do. I know there's a lot of needs. Thank you.
Thank you. I cannot read this next name, Steve. Is it Benny? Handwriting's not always the best, sorry.
Last name looks like Lord, N-O-R-D.
Okay, thank you, sir.
B-O-K-E-L-L, Bokel.
I'm sorry, give me your name.
Say it again. Bokel, looks like B-O-K-E-L-L, Bokel.
Please come forward. Sorry about that. If you'll give us your full name, please, ma'am.
I'm sure it's my writing. I apologize. Maureen Raquel, Springview Drive in Burlington.
Could you repeat that, please?
Maureen Raquel.
Reed.
Maureen, yes.
And spell your last name, please.
R-O-C-K-E-L-L.
Thank you.
I'm here tonight because of the property valuations. I believe that they were based on a housing bubble, buying frenzy that is past. And with our valuations going up almost 50%, that is insane. Most of us are on a low income. My husband's on disability. I'm at the post office. Those of us at the post office just got an $8,000 to $15,000 pay cut this year. So affording these higher taxes is going to be an extreme burden. We came to Burlington 20 years ago. We chose it out of all the neighboring counties because of the quality of life. The tax burden was beautiful. We loved it. We certainly can't afford these higher taxes that are based on this housing bubble that we believe. I don't believe that's a reasonable increase for anybody. Houses are now sitting on the market because prices have fallen, and people still want to get that price, but they're not going to. We chose Alamance because we thought it was a fantastic place to live, and it still is. I also ask that you fund the sheriff's office and the emergency services, because if we don't have a safe community, we don't have a community. We love our community, and we want to live here safely. We know we live in a drug corridor. We're starting to hear more and more of that coming in, and it's coming fast. If we don't have our sheriff's department to protect us, there's no reason to be here. I appreciate all you guys have done. We really do need a revenue neutral budget so that the rest of us can still afford to stay here and pay your taxes. Thank you.
And we thank you. Anita Burton. That's what it looks like.
Good evening. My name is Anita Burton. I reside at 434 James Street, Burlington, North Carolina, and I've lived in Alamance County all my life. I'm here to speak against reallocating $2.9 million from the Education Reserve to courthouse expansion. I have two children who came through ABSS school system. My youngest will be graduating from Cummins High School on Saturday. The teachers in any of the Alamance County schools have been the best to work with. They deserve the best facilities to work in. I've talked with others regarding the agenda this office has for these funds. Here's the responses I've received. So they'd rather the jails that people are in be more comfortable than the schools for our students. If Alamance County concentrated on building better schools, we could provide facilities where youth can be taught skills that will keep them from having to enlist the aid of a public defender. My heart is youth ministry. My belief is we as a county can provide an environment that will lay the foundation for any youth to be able to sidestep ever having to be in a courtroom and on the wrong side of the law. These funds play an important part in assuring the number one concern for families in Alamance County remain a priority. I am a registered voter. The bond back in 2018 said education bond, not courthouse expansion bond. Leave that money where it is. Find the funds elsewhere and let these funds go towards the much-needed $17 million in repairs needed for our schools. The mantra of ABSS, Alamance Burlington School System, is student-centered, future-focused. Show students in Alamance County Public Schools that their futures matter. Do not touch the funds earmarked for education, not now, not ever. Hands off our reserve funds, hands off our debt service funds, hands off any fund that threatens our children's education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sandy Ellington Graves. Madam Chairman.
Before I begin, I do want to take an opportunity to just recognize board colleague Donna Westbrooks, Deputy Superintendent Lowell Rogers, and ABS Superintendent Dr. Dane Butler here with me this evening. Vice Chair Bowding is traveling this evening. I'm Sandy Ellington Graves. I live at 6349 Whitney Road in Graham. Chair Paisley, Commissioners, and Ms. York, it is a pleasure to come before you again this year to advocate for your continued support of ABSS. As you know, I am a member of the school board serving my second year as board chair. I am also the mother of a student at Southern Alamance High School. I have 5 nieces and nephews in ABSS. I have 2 sisters-in-laws who teach in ABSS, one finishing year 19 and one finishing year 23. I am a lifelong resident of Alamance County, where I have been a local real estate broker for more than 20 years. Tonight, I speak to you as an elected official, a mother, a citizen, and a small business owner. I see firsthand the value of investing in public education, and I am truly committed to the success of our schools. I start tonight by saying thank you. During my almost 3 years on the school board, and particularly over the last 2 years as board chair, this Board of Commissioners has shown consistent support for ABSS. Chair Paisley, your willingness to meet monthly with me and the superintendent is appreciated. You and your board colleagues have welcomed engagement from members of the school board, and the collaboration between the commissioners and the school board is meaningful in many ways for the people in Alamance County. To echo Commissioner Carter's comments at the meeting last month, we have come a long way, and our relationship is stronger than it's ever been. Thank you all for your partnership and your friendship. I am most proud of the collaborative work between our boards last year to position a school resource officer on every ABSS campus. I am also excited as we continue to work together to identify capital projects to provide safe learning environments for our students and staff. In August of 2022, under the leadership of new Superintendent Dr. Dane Butler, ABSS cut over $2.2 million in programs and positions. Last month, Dr. Butler again recommended even more reductions, totaling $3.2 million in programs and positions. An audit of our state allotment for teaching positions added another $2 million reduction. This totals $7 million, or roughly 4% of our total budget. His recommendation continues to align our spending priorities for teaching and learning, safety measures at our schools, and teacher recruitment. I am proud to report the Board of Education voted unanimously 6-0 to approve this recommendation. This action allows us to be fiscally responsible, transparent with the community, and challenges us to do more with less. The 2023-24 budget recommendation for education is 26.03% of your budget, with over $51 million for ABSS, reflecting a 2.45 increase over last year. This recommended investment to ABSS is $2.9 million less than requested, yet we are confident under Dr. Butler's leadership we will continue to fund current operations. And with more than $7 million identified in savings in just over 10 months, we are positioned to add $1.3 million in teacher supplements, $500,000 for athletic trainers, and $180,000 to increase coaching stipends. A savings of more than $4 million will replenish our dangerously low fund balance. I also commend the Board of Commissioners and their commitment to remain consistent in funding ABSS capital projects. To provide clarity for the public, I do acknowledge an adjustment in debt service for the 2018 education bond from 5.64 cents to 3.71 cents. This adjustment is a direct result of the recent tax evaluation where the value of the penny has changed. This adjustment does not reduce the annual funding of $9,334,729 to ABSS. I must also acknowledge and thank you for the $1 million project proposal for the athletic fields at some of our schools. These renovations will certainly benefit our schools, our youth programs, and our communities. As you work to approve the final budget, please know your diligence and consideration is appreciated. I recognize the tremendous task before you. So often we speak in dollars and cents, expenditures and budgets, contracts and funding. I challenge all of us to always see our students, our staff, and our buildings as investments, not expenditures. Investments in public education, investments in our people, investments in our county, and investments in our future. The Board of Education shares Dr. Butler's priority of investing in public education for school safety, for our facilities, and for our people. Ms. York's recommendation of $51,259,221 in your 2023-24 budget reflects your board's investment in public education too. Tonight I ask your support of this recommendation, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak and for letting me go over my allotted time. Thank you.
And if the sheriff does not arrest me for having gavelled him down, Ms. Graves will allow you to continue. I'm in trouble. Okay, that is the last speaker that we have on our list. Do we have a motion to adjourn the budget hearing? Have a motion? Second. Have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? We are now ending the budget hearing. And we've had a request for at least two of us to have a 10-minute recess. May I ask some of you folks on the school agenda, I'll come forward and privately talk to you if you'll allow me to do that. Okay, we're adjourned for 10 minutes. Signify by saying aye.
We need a motion.
We need a motion, sorry, you're right. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the ordinance.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it and just say that, again, I see this, as I mentioned at the last meeting, a intersection of two important rights. One is the right to do what you want to on your own property. The other is the right to peaceably enjoy your property without having to worry about projectiles. And I think this ordinance has been, we've taken it back a number of times to make sure it's crafted for general applicability, not particularly one, dealing with one particular property, but all the properties in Alamance County. I think it meets that balance, and therefore I would second the motion.
Any other comments? All in favor of the new ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying nay. Nay. It fails, 3 noes, 2 yeses. Item number 7B, Mr. Atkins.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. They just don't design things for people like me. Here we go. I'll let Bruce get my slides up here. But thank you for letting me come talk with you this evening. I'm going to make a brief presentation. I know we've been here for a while. When it comes up. Here we are. I want to talk with you about our Vincent Valuation LLC contract and make a request. I want to start out by talking about our appeals so far. So if you look at what's been put under appeal, we're talking about $3.4 billion of value that is under appeal. Now, if we gave the appellants everything they've requested, we would have to drop that to about $2.5 billion, a reduction of $890 million, or about 25% of the value that's under appeal. If we kept that at revenue neutral, we're talking $3.8 million of reduction. So obviously, appeals are important, and that's why I come to you. I want to make sure that we are having a strong appeal program. So during revaluation, great care is taken to be consistent between properties and achieve current market value. The goal of the appeals process is to correct errors in the original valuation without disrupting this consistency and market accuracy. Good revaluation can be ruined by a bad appeals process. And I am confident that we have a good revaluation. I know that there's a lot of displeasure with the amount that values rose, but that amount is dictated by the market. What we do is reflect that amount. Statistically, going into sending out notices, I felt good about the values based on the research we had done. But now, based on the appeals we've seen so far, I feel even better. Watching the performance at the Board of Equalization, watching as the appeals have processed through, have only given me confidence in the revaluation itself. And we want to make sure to defend that, to keep a strong first-year value base. Because everything downstream from here, year after year, if we do a good job now, we're in a strong position going forward. If it comes apart on appeal, then we'll have to wait until the next revaluation to get a reset. So this is very important. So a poor appeal process does not just cause problems for the properties appealed. There is a domino effect that takes place. So when I talk with my neighbor, I talk with my friend, I talk with my cousin, and I say, hey, I just walked in and they reduced my value. Oh, really? Well, next year that person's going to appeal too. And the next year that person's going to appeal too. And if we've done it based on evidence, if we've done it the right way, we're good to go. But if we've not been careful in the changes we make right now, then we begin to compound problems year by year. To ensure that all property owners are treated fairly, we require evidence for any change that we make. Statements of opinion, unless given by an expert in property valuation, are not relevant. You rely on facts, documents, pictures, measurement statistics to indicate when a reduction is appropriate. Everything that we do is evidence-based. Pressure from the appellant creates an incentive to discount the appealed property to satisfy that appellant. If this reduction is not evidence-based, consistent with other properties, and supported by the market, reducing the appellant is asking the other property owners to pick up the tab. This is picking the pocket of the other property owners to pay off the appellant. It's a lot easier to make the person in front of you happy at the expense of thousands of people who will never even know. And we have to resist that urge. We have to be consistent and evidence-based. Now, to this end, we have asked our revaluation services vendor to handle our appeals process to ensure that we finish strong. Staff of Vincent Valuations LLC are experts who are well managed to ensure a consistent and equitable result. The Vincent team has dramatically improved our appeals process and brought a new level of professionalism to our Board of Appeals. If you doubt it, I would invite you to come and sit in, and we've had guests before, or to speak with any of the members of the Board of Equalization about what they've seen in this year as opposed to previous years. Our appeals program is operating at a much higher level than it ever has before. And I'm very proud of it, but we want to keep that going. We want to keep that consistency high and finish strong. Now, we entered into contract with Vincent August 16th, 2021. The original invoice limit was $250,000. So we said, out of the gate, you can bill us up to that, and we stopped. Now, on January 18th, 2022, there was interest by the board to accelerate our process. We were originally going to send notices in March, but in the interest of having more time to see these appeals and make sure that we're confident in what we're dealing with, that was advanced to January at a cost of $176,000. So that brought the invoice limit up to $426,000. Now today, we have spent $407,506.25. That's what we've been invoiced so far. We estimate that it could cost up to $255,000 to complete the project. Now I hope not to spend $255,000, but I'd rather go ahead and ask for what we may need than try to keep it at the absolute minimum and come back in a few months and ask for more. At $255, we can get it done. The important thing to note is that we're not talking about a single additional dollar outside of what is already budgeted. So we knew that we would need the money. We've already budgeted the money. The issue is that we can't pay the money on the contract that we have. We need to modify that limit to $662,500. And I apologize, in your packets, I think it says 671. That is a clerical error on my part. The 662,500, so that we can complete this process. We've got the money sitting there, but we can't spend it. And that's what I'm asking permission,
And let
is
me
to be able to
acknowledge
spend
that
it.
you did send that out to us by email early
Yes.
today, and we have that new number.
Absolutely. So one more thing I want to note is the cost of these appeal defenses. On average, we're looking at $75 per appeal. Now, you have to consider that this is everything from the smallest homes and the little slivers of a lot in the county, but it's up to the biggest mansions, to the largest commercial and industrial properties. If you take the whole thing together, you're looking at an average of $75 to defend an appeal. This is about 2.5% of 1 year's revenue on the appealed property. And you consider that we're getting multiple years off of a successful appeal defense. Consider also the domino effect. If we're preventing that domino effect, we're preventing multiple tag-along properties that have multiple years. I think this is money well spent, and I'm very satisfied with our rate of return on that. One other thing we need to talk about, the Property Tax Commission is running about a year out. And so if folks appeal our local board to the state board, it could be next year before it's heard. Well, our contract expires August 16th. But Vincent follows up with any of their appraisals. They carry it through the lifetime of the process. If it goes to the state, they go to the state with it. And so I would like to extend that August 16th of 2024 to to make sure we're still under contract for cases that go to the state level. So my official ask, this is what I'm here to ask you for, is the tax department requests the board authorize increasing the limit on total payments to Vincent Valuations LLC to $662,500 be paid from existing budgeted funds. Further request the board authorize extending the term of the existing agreement with Vincent Valuations LLC by 1 year to August 16th, 2024, to allow for the delay in appeals to be heard by the North Carolina Property Tax Commission.
And may I move that we approve both the 662.5 and the extension to August 16, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Can I ask him a question?
Absolutely.
When will you do this again, this revow?
It's scheduled in 4 years.
Will you hire
2027.
these people? We will have the expense of hiring a person or a company to do that revow again. It's not something we can do, our county.
So we have options. One of the options on one end of the spectrum is a total in-house. One of the options on the other end of the spectrum is a total outsource. This time we hybridize the two. There are trade-offs with that.
Yeah.
I will tell you that in the situation we're in right now, I don't think our current configuration would let us do it in-house. We could possibly do another hybrid, or we could do an outsource.
Okay.
If there's interest in doing it in-house, we can, but we'd have to revise.
I don't want to talk about it. And if I get my tax bill and I haven't, this is hypothetical, and I hadn't got an appeal yet, do I have to pay that tax bill while I'm waiting? And if my tax bill evaluation is done, appeal, and it goes down, does that mean you're gonna give me that refund?
Yes.
How does that work?
Yes, so
But they have to pay whatever it is, whenever we set all this stuff, that has to be paid until if there is an appeal and an appeal, resolved.
So the technical date that would have to pay by is January 5th, and by then we will be done. So
Okay,
there's no risk in waiting and being past due. Now, the risk is, we're hoping to be done in August. If it goes into September, you get past that discount period. And if you wanted the discount, you would need to go ahead and pay during the discount period. And if it were later reduced, then we would refund back the difference.
okay.
Excellent questions.
One quick question, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Whenever an appeal is successful and property value goes down, that has a corresponding effect by raising the revenue neutral rate up
Yes.
slightly.
Yes.
But you mentioned that appeals are not going to be complete until August.
Right. And
So we're setting the tax rate next meeting. So what's your confidence level if we set the revenue neutral rate at revenue neutral, that revenue neutral is actually going to be below?
So the true.
Sorry, above.
So when
And that
this,
we set the tax rate to below revenue neutral.
that's highly unlikely. So it is an estimate, and so I can't know with absolute certainty when we're estimating, but I did play it safe with the estimate. If we set at what we're estimating revenue neutral, and it turns out later we were too low, that would be very surprising to me. Realistically, it would probably be the reverse, is when the smoke clears and we get a true, we know what the number is, there's no estimating involved, odds are it would actually be that we've set it a little bit higher. We could have set it a little bit lower. But you have to stop at some point and set an estimate. And again, I'm a little conservative with that because I don't want to get us into trouble with not being able to fund what we planned.
Thank you.
But the revenue neutral that you're projecting is 42.6, which means if you round it off to an even number, is 43 cents.
Rounded, yes.
And like what Craig was saying, if for some reason, I'm back to me hypothetically, say something happens and I owe you more money, are you gonna bill me?
Yes. Well, so there is a very small, right now about 2.5% of appeals result in increases. We don't like increasing on appeal, but sometimes we're presented with the information we didn't have, that we have to correct our records. If there's square footage that was finished out that we didn't know about, I can't ignore that. And so there is about 2.5% of appeals that come through that do lead to small increases. If that were to happen after billing, we would have to supplement the bill.
And I actually had somebody contact me, request an appeal, make the appeal, and find out that they had changes to their property, and their property value went up instead of down.
When it goes up, our average increase is less than $5,000. I mean, it's really not much. And again, it's about 2.5% of the cases that we deal with.
You won't get, I'm not that person. You won't be getting no more from me. I might add no nothing. Golly.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor of this motion as printed on the board before us, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Mr. Haskins, you're up next again.
I know. Well, this time I'm hoping that I've done well enough, maybe I've passed the audition, I don't know, that you might like to keep me around for a little while.
I'll make the motion that we.
Are you asking?
Oh, look, we're in a public place. I can't get down and beg in public. I do that in private.
Well, actually, you can.
I'm only kidding.
All joking aside, it has been both a pleasure and an honor to get to serve in this position. Goodness, I started in 2013. I guess this is the 4th term I'm asking for, and have thoroughly enjoyed it. So I hope that you were pleased as well, and we get to continue doing this.
I'll make the motion that we continue to retain Mr. Atkins with the period beginning July 1, 2023, expiring June 30, 2027.
I'll second that.
I just want to thank you because every time I've called you in sheer panic, you have just been so even-keeled. This has just been unbelievable. And it's just been something.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'd echo that. I'd just like to thank you for your steady hand, your professional, well-informed manner in which you've handled this reevaluation, which has been stressful to a lot of people in the community. I just thank you for that.
Thank you.
I did all those comments. I mean, it's just consistent, calm, cool, collected leadership.
And we know you didn't create the inflation. I really thank you as well. You've done an excellent job.
I agree. The only thing I would add is the 4 years mandatory? Like you can't leave for 4 years?
Absolutely.
Does it work that way too?
With that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jeremy, for everything you do. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you so
very
much.
Thompson, any comments?
No, I'm just, no. I think Jeremy's just a fine human being. I appreciate him being that person in all this.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second.
I'll make one other comment, just the obvious. You can't pump $2 trillion into the economy and not create inflation. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
Whoever thought trillion would be a common word? What's next?
That's right.
Over?
You remember the show, The Millionaire?
Oh, yeah. I'd love to be just a millionaire.
Remember when you could build a man for $6 million?
True. Good point, Bill.
And talk about inflation. Yes, there is. We'll get on to it, Thomas. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good Thomas, good.
You think so?
No comments from the peanut gallery, sorry. Okay. County Attorney's report.
Nothing for me tonight, Board. I just want to say, though, that I think you made the right choice by keeping Mr. Akins. He's a pleasure to work with for me as well. Thank you for that.
Thank you. County Manager's report.
I have a bit of good news that we wanted to announce that Alamance County was successful in being awarded the EPA Brownfield Coalition Assessment Grants. That's $1 million. They'll be looking at dormant mills, and it's a coalition that includes some of our municipal partners. We had brought that before you for discussion before we applied, and we found out that we were successful. There were 4 awarded in the state of North Carolina. It's a national award, so.
Excellent.
Super.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I had. Oh, I did have one other thing. Apologies. Somebody had asked whether or not the TRC or OSC minutes were posted on the website, so I did just want to let you know that those are posted in an effort to be open and transparent about what's discussed at those meetings. They are found on the county website.
So that addresses one of the comments from the
Correct.
public speakers.
Yes. That's
If
what
that,
all I
if that
had.
individual is replaying it or listening online, they are available. Anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Thanks so much. County Commissioner comments. Which end do we want to start on? Ms. Thompson, I'll give you the first go.
Okay, I don't have a comment about the meeting because we have a work session tomorrow where we're really going to get into this and do everything possible right by our citizens. But I would like to just read something real quick that kind of just defines where we are in the world today, about sometimes we see things and we don't know the whole story, so it's very important that we do. And so the Secretary of State, Dean Rusk, was in France in the early 60s when French President de Gaulle decided to pull out of NATO. De Gaulle said he wanted all U.S. military out of France as soon as possible, and Rusk responded, "That does include those of us who are buried here." And de Gaulle did not respond. You could have heard a pin drop. And when England, at a very large conference, Colin Powell was asked about the Archbishop of Canterbury if our plans for Iraq were just as example of an empire by George Bush. He answered by saying, "Over the years, the United States has sent many of its fine young men and women into great peril to fight for freedom beyond our borders. The only amount of land we have ever asked for was in return is enough to bury those that did not return." You could have hit a pin drop. There was a conference in France where a number of international engineers were taking part, including French and American. During a break, one of the French engineers came back in the room saying, "Have you heard the latest dumb stunt that Bush has done? He has sent an aircraft carrier to Indonesia to help the tsunami victims. What does he intend to do, bomb them?" And a Boeing engineer stood up and replied quietly, "Our carriers have 3 hospitals on board that can treat several hundred people. They are nuclear powered and can supply emergency electrical power to shore facilities. They have 3 cafeterias with the capacity to feed 3,000 people 3 times a day. They can produce several thousand gallons of fresh water from seawater each day, and they carry half a dozen helicopters for use in transporting victims and injured to and from their flight deck. We have 11 such ships. How many does French have?" Could have heard a pin drop. And a U.S. Navy admiral was attending a naval conference that included admirals from the U.S., English, Canadian, Australian, and French navies. At a cocktail reception, he found himself standing in a large group of officers that included personnel from most of those countries. Everyone was chatting away in English as they sipped their drinks, but a French admiral suddenly complained that, whereas Europeans learn many languages, Americans learn only one, English. He then asked, "Why is it that we always have to speak English in these conferences rather than speaking French?" Without hesitation, the American admiral replied, "Maybe it's because the Brits, Canadians, Aussies, and Americans arranged it so you wouldn't have to speak German." You could have heard a pin drop. And last but not least, Robert Whiting, an elderly gentleman of 83, arrived in Paris by plane. At French customs, he took a few minutes to locate his passport and his carry-on. "You have been to France before, monsieur?" the customs officer asked sarcastically. Mr. Whiting admitted that he had been to France previously. "Then you should know enough to have your passport ready." The American said, "The last time I was here, I didn't have to show it." "Impossible. Americans always have to show their passports on arrival in France." The American senior gave the Frenchman a hard, long look, and then he quietly said, "Well, when I came ashore at Omaha Beach on D-Day in 1944 to help liberate this country, I couldn't find a single Frenchman to show a passport to." You could have heard a pin drop. So I encourage us all, it's such a really tough time. If you just look around everywhere, it's just so much chaos, and I just pray for my nation and all of us all the time. So please understand, sometimes appear to be one thing and they're not. We just got to get that middle ground to make sure we have nothing but honesty and nothing but transparency. So thank you for your patience for me to read this.
And thank you. Mr. Lashley.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to make it short and sweet tonight. I just want to thank everyone for coming out. I know this is a pretty stressful time of year, not to mention, but reevaluation on TAP 2, sort of. So just want to let everybody know that we intend to definitely do some more work on this budget and look forward to showing the public what we come up with in a couple of weeks. But we just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's very important that you let your elected officials know how you feel on things each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to echo Mr. Lashley's comments. We've got a work session tomorrow talking about the budget. It's time to roll up our sleeves, sharpen our pencils, and get to work. Thank you.
Mr. Carter.
Yes, I'd like to extend my thanks as well to the folks who came out tonight. Unfortunately, most of them are no longer here. It's important for us to hear what our citizens think and to try and respond in kind with the budget we come up with to try and provide for services for our citizens. And I think it's the most difficult part for us is to try and make a balance between the citizens who respect and know that they need the services we offer and make sure that the services we offer are consistent to meet the need and demand. So it's going to be a challenge. We all know that. Trying to figure out who to fund and who not to fund, or how much to fund and how much not to fund, is a constant challenge. The one thing I think that a lot of people don't understand, our county manager is charged with the role, and our staff is charged with the role of explaining to us or presenting us with what they think we need as a county to meet the needs of our citizens. And that doesn't mean that the budget that is presented is going to be the budget that is approved, but it gives us an idea of what we need to look at, and then we have to make decisions on where we need to cut if cuts are needed. That's no easy task. It's no easy task for the county manager to bring us a number that she knows is higher than revenue neutral. It's no easy task for us to try and get that number to revenue neutral or wherever it lands. And I hope that the bottom line on this is that people will respect that we're trying to do the right thing for our citizens and for the employees of the county, which in many cases are also our citizens. So it's a challenge. We've decided we wanted to accept it by running as candidates and being elected, and we hope we can meet your expectations in coming up with a budget that makes everyone happy. And thank everybody for coming out tonight.
I'd like to say thank you, Senator Galey. I did not see you earlier. I'd like to acknowledge that you are present and supporting Alamance County, and you're doing such a super job.
Amen.
We thank you. I want to add, we do have a work session at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Now, adding on to what Ms. Thompson said, I had literally 3 generations, a 7th generation grandfather, 6th and 5th generation grandfathers to fight and battle in the Revolutionary War in the 1700s. I am the possessor, I did not say owner, of the rifle used by my 6th generation grandfather, Colonel John Paisley, in the Revolutionary War. And I'm proud to pass that on down my family line. My grandfather's brother, Lieutenant John Paisley, was the first commissioned officer killed in World War I, and his body is buried in France. His footstone or headstone is in at Bethel Presbyterian Church in McLeansville. My son-in-law, married to my daughter Susan, was an Army Ranger, or is an Army Ranger, that was involved in Somalia. Black Hawk Down, the movie, he was one of the Rangers, not in the movie, but in real life, that pulled those that were shot down and shot in Somalia out. So although I was not able to serve, My family did, and I just want to recognize all the military people that have, many gave their lives, many were wounded. My wife's father was shot down twice, first over occupied France in World War II in a B-14, and the second time over occupied Germany in a B-17 during World War II. So all of us here, and Mr. Turner, you may have been backseat, but you were landing on aircraft carriers. This board supports the military and the holiday that we just had this past weekend. I want to say thanks to all the veterans. Thank you.
Might I add, Ms. Thompson has a son who served our
That's
country
correct.
as well.
And a dad. I'm just very lucky. Love our soldiers.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.